My friends, listen carefully. Every great blessing that comes from God is always announced before it arrives. God never gives without preparing, and He never prepares without purpose. Before divine manifestation, there is always divine indication. When God is about to shift your life, He begins to send signals, not to frighten you, but to ready you. You see, the problem is not that God isn't speaking. The problem is that we have become too distracted to recognize His signs. Before every breakthrough, there's a breaking. Before every elevation, there's a separation. Before every promise, there's a period of preparation. These are not coincidences. These are signs of transition. So today I want to open your eyes to the spiritual patterns that appear when God is positioning you for something greater. These signs are not random. They are heaven's way of saying, get ready. Something is about to change. Because when God is about to give you something, He first prepares you to handle it. When God is about to give you something, He doesn't begin with the blessing. He begins with preparation. Preparation is heaven's classroom, and every lesson in that class is meant to shape your capacity to handle what's coming. God's greatest gifts are not delivered to the unprepared, because the weight of blessing can crush the unready heart. So before He opens the door, He builds the foundation. Before He places you on the stage, He strengthens your character in the shadows. You may not see it, but every delay, every challenge, every closed door is part of His construction process. He is stretching your faith, polishing your patience, and refining your discernment. You can't carry tomorrow's blessings with today's mindset. So He renews your mind through trials that feel uncomfortable, but are essential for transformation. When God begins to prepare you, He often starts by disrupting your routine. Suddenly, the things that used to satisfy no longer feel enough. You sense a restlessness that pushes you out of comfort zones you once called home. That's not frustration. That's divine stirring. He's shaking the foundation not to break you, but to build something unshakable within you. Preparation is never pretty because it's designed to strip away everything in you that can't survive your next level. God begins to confront habits, attitudes, and relationships that don't align with your destiny. The pruning feels painful, but it's necessary. You cannot carry old weight into new seasons. Some people are pruned from your life not because they were evil, but because their assignment in your story is complete. Every departure is not loss. Some are divine release. As God prepares you, He also begins to isolate you, not as punishment, but as purification. Isolation is heaven's workshop. In that quiet place, He removes the noise so you can finally hear His voice clearly. You'll notice that in your preparation season, you spend less time explaining yourself to people and more time understanding yourself before God. The conversations become fewer, the circles become smaller, and your spirit becomes sharper. You start to discern the difference between what is urgent and what is important. You stop chasing approval because you finally realize that the crowd can't confirm what heaven has already called. God hides you because exposure too early can destroy what is still being formed. Hidden seasons are holy seasons. That's where roots grow deep enough to sustain the weight of future fruit. Preparation also tests your patience. God will show you the promise long before He gives you possession of it. He'll allow you to see glimpses of what's coming, dreams, confirmations, open doors that almost happen, not to tease you, but to train you. The waiting develops your endurance. It teaches you to trust His timing more than your emotions. The truth is, if the blessing comes too soon, it could become your downfall. Many people pray for promotion, but forget that promotion without preparation becomes destruction. So, God waits until you are strong enough to remain humble when you rise, wise enough to stay grateful when you receive, and disciplined enough to sustain what He gives. During preparation, everything you depend on that isn't God will start to fail. People will let you down. Plans will fall apart, and your own strength will reach its limits. This is intentional. God doesn't want you to enter the next season leaning on unstable support. He allows weakness to remind you that His strength is made perfect in it. When you have nothing left to rely on but Him, you become truly ready. Because God doesn't build destiny on confidence in self. He builds it on total dependence. That's why the preparation process often feels lonely, uncertain, and uncomfortable. It's meant to empty you of self-reliance so that when He gives you the blessing, you'll know it wasn't by your power, but by His grace. He will also use delay as a tool. Delay teaches discernment. It filters out shallow motives and reveals whether you want the promise or the promiser. Many times what you call delay is actually God giving you space to grow into what you asked for. He's not denying your request. He's developing your readiness. When He seems silent, it's not because He's ignoring you, but because He's working behind the scenes in ways you can't yet see. God never wastes time, He uses it. Every hidden season is an investment into your maturity. And when you finally arrive at your appointed moment, you'll realize that what felt like waiting was actually preparation in progress. Preparation also exposes your heart. It reveals insecurities you didn't know were there. Pride you thought you had conquered. Fears you thought you had buried. God allows these things to surface so He can heal them before they sabotage your future. He cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. Your heart must be renewed to carry new assignments. So don't resist the refining. The fire is not there to destroy you. It's there to remove the impurities that could corrupt your blessing. The same heat that melts gold doesn't harm it. It purifies it. In the same way, divine preparation removes what's temporary so that only what's true remains. There will come a point when you begin to see glimpses of why the preparation was necessary. The pain starts making sense. The lessons begin to connect. You'll realize that God was not preparing the blessing for you. He was preparing you for the blessing. He had to strengthen your faith so you could carry what's next without breaking. He had to stretch your endurance so you could last through pressure. He had to sharpen your discernment so you wouldn't mistake distractions for opportunities. Every tear, every test, every delay was part of the construction. He was building the version of you that could survive the destiny you prayed for. When you understand preparation, you stop fighting it. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, prepare me. Because you realize that every great destiny requires great development. You learn that God's not yet is just as loving as His yes. You begin to trust that His process is protection, not punishment. Preparation is proof that you are chosen. It's heaven's way of saying, you are next, but not yet. Because when the appointed time comes, you won't have to chase what's yours. It will recognize you. The blessing will meet you in maturity, not in immaturity. And everything you endured in silence will become the foundation for everything you are about to receive in glory. So when you find yourself in a season of delay, isolation, and stretching, remember, you are not being forgotten. You are being formed. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Because when God is about to give you something, He first builds you into someone who can carry it faithfully, protect it wisely, and multiply it purposefully. That's the sacred beauty of divine preparation. Separation is one of the most misunderstood parts of divine preparation, yet it is one of the clearest signs that God is about to give you something new. Before every elevation, there is always a separation. When God begins to move you into a new dimension of purpose, He does not add first, He subtracts. He begins to remove the unnecessary so that the essential can emerge. It's never comfortable, but it's necessary. Because where God is taking you, not everyone can go. The company that surrounded your comfort zone cannot always survive your calling. Separation is heaven's way of protecting your next level from contamination. You may see it as loss, but God sees it as preservation. In seasons of separation, you start to notice distance growing between you and certain people, places, and patterns. Friendships that once felt like home begin to fade. Environments that once fueled your joy begin to drain your peace. Conversations that once excited you now feel empty. That's not rejection. It's redirection. God is shifting your spiritual frequency, and not everyone around you can hear on that level. When your purpose matures, your connections must be filtered. Every new season requires a new circle. Every calling comes with its own company. So when God starts to separate you, He's not isolating you to punish you. He's isolating you to prepare you. There comes a moment when separation feels like betrayal. People you love deeply may walk away, misunderstand you, or even speak against you. The human heart wants to hold on, to cling to what is familiar, but God gently breaks that grip, because attachment to the wrong people can delay divine timing. Some people were anointed to be part of your journey, not your destination. They were there to teach you something, not to travel with you forever. So when they leave, bless them. Don't chase what God has already released. The pain of letting go is proof that your heart was genuine, but your obedience to release them is proof that your spirit is growing. Separation also happens within. God begins to separate your old mindset from your new mission. He pulls you away from fear, from doubt, from the limitations that once defined your identity. You start losing interest in old habits that no longer align with your purpose. What once attracted you begins to repel you. The things that used to entertain you now feel meaningless. This inner separation is one of the strongest signs of spiritual growth. You start choosing peace over popularity, destiny over distraction, purpose over pleasure. You may feel alone for a while, but in that loneliness, something sacred is happening. God is detoxing your spirit from everything that cannot live in your next season. Separation can also come through silence. People stop calling, doors stop opening, opportunities that seemed certain suddenly collapse. In those moments, it's easy to assume something went wrong, but silence is often divine surgery. God is removing the noise that keeps you from hearing His instruction. He allows people to exit quietly so He can enter clearly. Because until you stop listening to the voices of distraction, you can't discern the voice of direction. This is why separation feels painful. It exposes how much you relied on others for confirmation. But the truth is, God wants you to depend on Him, not them. He doesn't remove people to make you lonely. He removes them to make you whole.
During separation, your emotions will be tested. You will want to question everything,
Your worth, your value, even your calling. But that's when you must remember that pruning always precedes fruitfulness. A gardener never cuts a tree to kill it. He cuts it to make it stronger. God's pruning in your life is not a rejection of who you are. It's preparation for who you're becoming. Every friendship lost, every opportunity missed, every detour endured, all of it is divine rearrangement. You are being pruned so that when the blessing comes, it won't be polluted by attachments that drain your energy or distort your focus. And understand this, separation is not always permanent. Some relationships are seasonal, others are cyclical. God might bring some people back once your maturity aligns with their purpose. But even if He doesn't, trust His wisdom. Don't hold on to what was when He's trying to introduce you to what is next. The key is surrender. Surrender to His timing, His method, His pruning. Because sometimes the blessing you're praying for is being delayed by the people you're refusing to release. You can't receive what's in His hand while your own hands are still full of what He asked you to let go. The power of separation is that it simplifies your life. It forces you to see who really matters, what really matters, and why you're truly here. You stop living for applause and start living for assignment. You stop chasing temporary validation and start walking in eternal vision. You learn that not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you, and that's okay. The road to destiny narrows the higher you go. Those who can't breathe at high altitudes must stay behind, not because they're bad, but because the air at your level requires stronger lungs. Eventually, you'll look back and realize that the separation you once cried over was the best thing that ever happened to you. You'll see that losing certain people made room for divine connections that align perfectly with your purpose. You'll realize that closed doors saved you from counterfeit opportunities. You'll thank God for the loneliness because it birthed intimacy with Him. You'll recognize that what you thought was falling apart was really falling into place. Separation, in hindsight, will reveal itself as sacred strategy. So when you find yourself in a season where things are shifting, people are leaving, and silence fills the spaces where noise used to be, don't panic. That's the sound of elevation. God is removing the unnecessary so that the essential can emerge. He's cutting ties that cannot survive where He's taking you. The shaking is not to destroy you, it's to release you. Because when God is about to give you something, He first clears the space around you and within you. He removes the counterfeit to make room for the authentic. He separates what's temporary to establish what's eternal. Separation isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your transformation. Delay is one of the most challenging signs to understand when God is about to give you something. Yet it's one of the most powerful tools He uses to prepare you. When heaven schedules your promotion, it doesn't always come instantly. God's timing rarely aligns with human urgency. You might pray with faith, you might work with diligence, and still nothing seems to move. Doors stay shut, opportunities pause, silence lingers. But what if that delay is not denial? What if that stillness is divine strategy? You see, delay is God's method of building spiritual muscle. It's how He strengthens your patience, tests your trust, and matures your character. Because what He is about to place in your hands requires more than enthusiasm. It requires endurance. When you ask God for something big, He doesn't just give it to you. He grows you into someone who can handle it. Delay is the process of that growth. It's not about God changing His mind. It's about Him shaping yours. Many people misinterpret waiting as wasted time, but in God's economy, no waiting season is ever wasted. It's a classroom where faith becomes more than a feeling. You learn to rely on what you believe instead of what you see. In delay, God teaches you the difference between desire and readiness. Sometimes you're asking for something your heart wants, but your hands can't yet manage. If He gave it too early, you'd mishandle it. The gift would become a burden instead of a blessing. So He waits, not to withhold, but to prepare. In seasons of delay, heaven feels silent. You pray, and there's no answer. You fast, and there's no movement. You obey, yet nothing shifts. That silence tests the roots of your faith. It asks, do you trust God's plan even when you can't trace His hand? The delay exposes what you truly believe about Him. It's easy to praise God when prayers are answered quickly. It's harder when you're living between promise and manifestation. But that's exactly where God does His deepest work, in the in-between. It's there that He refines your motives. He exposes whether your faith is built on results or on relationship. When you reach a point where you can say, even if He doesn't do it now, I still believe, that's when you've passed the test. Delay also protects you from premature exposure. God knows the exact moment when your blessing will serve you and not destroy you. Some blessings carry weight, emotional, spiritual, even relational weight. And if you're not prepared to carry them, they can crush you. God's delay is often divine protection in disguise. Think of it like this. A fruit that ripens too fast spoils quickly. But the fruit that matures slowly becomes sweeter, stronger, and more nourishing. The same is true for destiny. God is not just interested in giving you what you prayed for. He's interested in making you last in it. That's why He takes His time. Because His goal is not speed, it's stability. During delay, God also reveals hidden things about your surroundings. You begin to see who truly supports you and who was only present for convenience. You discover who stays when nothing is happening. Delay is a filter. It exposes real loyalty. Some people celebrate your potential but can't handle your process. They cheer for your promise but disappear in your patience. That's how God protects your circle. The longer you wait, the clearer it becomes who's truly meant to walk with you into the next season. Delay doesn't just shape you, it separates you. It reveals hearts. It clarifies motives. It purifies relationships. Another powerful purpose of delay is preparation through pressure. The longer you wait, the more pressure builds, internally and externally. You feel the tension of unanswered prayers, the weight of expectation, the frustration of uncertainty. But pressure produces capacity. It stretches your spirit to hold more of what's coming. Think of it as God expanding your inner container so that when He finally pours out His blessing, you won't overflow with anxiety or pride. You'll overflow with gratitude and wisdom. Pressure is not punishment. It's proof that God is enlarging your territory. What feels like delay is often God increasing your ability to sustain abundance. Delay is also the birthplace of discernment. When you don't get what you want immediately, you begin to listen more carefully. You start to notice details you missed before. You learn to distinguish between what's good and what's God. You stop chasing every opportunity and start waiting for divine instruction. In that waiting, your spiritual senses sharpen. You begin to recognize the subtle whispers of the Holy Spirit. You develop the maturity to say no to distractions disguised as blessings. This level of clarity only comes through stillness. If everything happened instantly, you'd never learn to hear beyond the noise. But when God delays, He tunes your ears to His frequency. In seasons of delay, comparison becomes a dangerous trap. You'll see others moving ahead, celebrating, succeeding while you're still waiting. But remember this, delay for one is not denial for another. God's timing is customized. He knows when your soil is ready for planting and when your fruit will mature. The harvest of your life cannot be compared to anyone else's. Theirs might bloom faster, but yours will last longer. God doesn't operate on a human clock. He moves according to destiny's calendar. So when you feel left behind, remind yourself that you're not behind schedule. You're in divine process. The race you're running is not about speed, it's about purpose. Delay also builds gratitude. When the blessing finally arrives, those who waited value it more deeply. They know the cost of patience, the strength of endurance, the sweetness of fulfillment. Quick blessings fade quickly, but blessings birthed through delay last because they've been tested. You won't take it for granted because you remember the nights you cried, the prayers you whispered, the hope you held on to. The longer the waiting, the greater the appreciation. That's why when God finally delivers, your joy is not shallow, it's sacred. It's not just celebration, it's worship. Finally, delay matures your identity. In the waiting, you stop defining yourself by your situation and start defining yourself by your faith. You learn to be content without being complacent. You realize that your value is not measured by what you have, but by who you're becoming. You stop rushing the process because you understand that what's meant for you will never miss you. That's the beauty of delay. It transforms your heart before it changes your circumstances. So when everything feels still, when the doors remain closed, when the silence stretches longer than expected, don't lose hope. Heaven is not ignoring you. It's investing in you. Every not yet is an act of divine love. Every pause is purposeful. God is aligning everything, the right time, the right people, the right place, so that when it happens, it will not just be a blessing, it will be a testimony. Because when God delays, He's not making you wait, He's making you ready. Peace is the final and most powerful sign that God is about to give you something. It is not the kind of peace the world offers, the peace that depends on circumstances, approval, or outcomes, but a deeper spiritual stillness that lives beyond understanding. This peace arrives quietly, after the storm, after the waiting, after the pruning. It's not always visible to others, but you feel it inside you like a calm river running through your soul. It's the moment when your spirit stops striving and starts trusting. You're no longer anxious about what's coming because something within you knows that what's meant for you is already secured by God. It's not resignation, it's revelation. You stop fighting for control and start resting in divine certainty. Peace doesn't mean everything suddenly makes sense. It means you finally accepted that you don't have to understand everything for it to work together for your good. You begin to realize that the same God who guided you through pain, loss, and waiting has never failed to keep his word. You start seeing your life not as a series of disconnected events, but as a carefully designed pattern, woven with both dark and light threads, creating something far more beautiful than you could have planned. That realization brings peace, not because the journey was easy, but because the presence of God was constant. In this stage, your emotions may still fluctuate, but your faith remains anchored. You no longer panic when doors close, because you've learned that closed doors are often divine protection. You no longer chase people's validation, because you've learned that peace is more valuable than approval. You stop trying to force what no longer fits. You release what you once clung to with tears and say, if it's meant to be mine, it will stay. If it leaves, it was never mine. This surrender doesn't come from weakness, it comes from wisdom. The kind of wisdom that can only be gained through the furnace of waiting, testing, and separation. Peace is the evidence that your spirit has matured. It's the sign that the storms no longer control you. You control your response to them. You might still face challenges, but now you respond differently. You no longer react with fear, you respond with faith. You don't allow chaos around you to create chaos within you. You've learned that calm is not the absence of trouble, but the mastery of trust. That's why peace is not something you achieve. It's something you receive once you've surrendered. When your heart aligns with heaven's timing, peace flows like water through your being. It becomes your inner confirmation that the promise is near. This peace also changes how you pray. Before, your prayers may have been full of urgency, pleading, and questions. But when peace settles in, your prayers become conversations of gratitude. You stop asking when and start saying thank you, because you understand that once God speaks a word, it's already done, even if it hasn't yet manifested. You no longer pray from desperation, but from alignment. That's the beauty of divine peace. It shifts your focus from results to relationship. You realize that the greatest blessing is not what God is about to give you, but who he has made you while preparing you to receive it. When peace enters your heart, your perspective on time changes. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer feel like you're behind. You understand that God's timing is not late, it's perfect. The delay that once frustrated you now becomes a source of gratitude because you can see how it protected you. You begin to look back and thank God not only for what he gave, but also for what he withheld. Things you once cried over now make sense. They were necessary redirections. This awareness produces a stillness that nothing external can disturb. It's not that problems disappear, it's that their power over you dissolves. Peace is also a signal that your warfare is ending. The confusion that clouded your vision begins to lift. The inner battle between doubt and faith begins to settle. You no longer wake up burdened by uncertainty. You start to feel lighter, more present, more hopeful. It's not because everything around you is perfect, but because everything within you is aligned. Peace confirms what faith has been whispering all along, that you are closer to your breakthrough than you realize. When this peace comes, it's heaven's announcement that the waiting has done its work, the pruning has fulfilled its purpose, and the promise is about to manifest. This kind of peace cannot be manufactured. You can't force it, fake it, or buy it. It's a divine gift that flows when you've reached the end of yourself and the beginning of complete trust. It's what happens when you stop needing constant signs to believe and simply rest in the assurance that God's word is enough. You feel it in quiet moments, in the sunrise that greets you after a night of tears, in the stillness that fills your heart when you realize that you've survived everything meant to destroy you. That's when you know something sacred is about to happen. Peace also changes your relationships. You no longer engage in unnecessary battles. You no longer defend your worth or prove your value. You choose silence over argument, stillness over reaction, and forgiveness over revenge. You realize that your peace is too precious to be traded for temporary validation. You learn that some people won't understand your calm because they expect chaos from you. But peace doesn't need to be explained. It only needs to be protected. When you carry peace, you become a walking testimony that trust in God produces stability even in unstable environments. This peace begins to radiate outward. It influences how you talk, how you walk, how you see the world. It gives you discernment to know when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to stay silent. It creates spiritual rhythm, a flow where your actions are no longer driven by fear but led by faith. You start to live with quiet confidence, knowing that what's yours cannot be lost and what's not meant for you cannot stay. You start making decisions from wisdom, not from worry. And even in uncertainty, you remain certain of one thing, that God's hand is still guiding every step. Peace is the crown of the prepared heart. The sign that you've passed the test of trust, endured the fire of waiting, and surrendered to the divine process. It's the inner whisper that says, now you are ready. Because peace is not the end of your preparation. It's the beginning of your manifestation. When it comes, you won't have to chase the blessing. It will come to you, drawn to the calmness of your spirit, because heaven always delivers to hearts that are still enough to receive. And in that stillness, you'll finally understand the peace you found in the process was itself the greatest gift God could ever give before the blessing arrives.